Hey guys, my name is Patricia and I'm here today to show you how to make dressings. The first thing you think about when someone says dressing is that stuff you dump on salad, right? Well, for sure, it can be, but it can be so much more. I want to show you how easy it is to create your own basic dressing from home and how it belongs on so much more than just salad. By the end of the presentation, I want you to feel able to go to your cupboards and come up with something rather than reach for the latest stuff put out by Kraft. Barbecue season is upon us, and this is an opportunity to make food taste better. I use my dressings on salads, veggies, and meat. I don't know one Kraft dressing that can do all that. I really want to keep your attention here, so I'm going to show you how to use the dressings on the items first, so your creative wheels are already turning by the time we get to the ingredients. Now we all know that dressing can go on salad, so I'm not going to make a huge presentation on how to dump dressing on some lettuce. So let's take a look at veggies first. You can put your dressing on any type of steamed, grilled, or fried vegetable, and I do find it's better to put the dressing on after they've been cooked. For me, I want to make sure not to use too much so that the dressing doesn't pool up at the bottom of the plate, and I just want to give it a light toss. Not only does this add flavor to your sides, but it gives it a much fancier look. If you were asked to bring the veggie dish to your next barbecue or potluck, you can simply buy a bunch of pre-chopped vegetables, grill or steam them, toss them in a bit of dressing, and it looks like you've put quite a bit of time in the kitchen that day. I also love to put my dressing on meat and fish. As soon as it comes off the barbecue, just give it a light brush with the basting brush and it locks in the moisture and again creates a way better presentation. So I've just got a basic dressing that I've pre-made. It's olive oil, lime juice, white wine vinegar, and parsley from the garden. I've got my basting brush, and I'm just going to dance it on top of a side of mushrooms, some grilled zucchini, and some fresh off the barbecue grilled chicken. Now I recognize that this is very hard to see, so we're going to pause for a moment and I'm going to show you the before and after photos of the vegetables and the chicken that I've just basted with our dressing. Here's the before and after of the zucchini, the green beans, the mixed veg, the potatoes, the mushrooms, and finally the chicken.
Okay, so now we're ready to make the dressing. We're just going to make a basic dressing that can be used on almost anything. The basic components of any dressing are an oil, a vinegar, a mustard, a herb, and a sweetener. You can still make an awesome dressing if you don't have one of those components. The key is looking into your cupboards, seeing what you have, and just improvising, trying, and tasting. The oil would come first. I really don't measure anything when it comes to dressing. It would just depend how much I'm making. For the couple people that I'm cooking for, I'm just going to add probably about a half a cup of olive oil. You can use any olive oil that you like. I don't use fancy olive oil at all. Just try it, taste it on its own, and if you like it, sure it'll be good enough for your dressing. Now, the second is vinegar. The types of vinegar that you can use are balsamic vinegar, red wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar, rice vinegar, white wine vinegar. If you're really in a jam and you really want to use vinegar, you can use white vinegar or malt vinegar, but I would caution to using too much because they are very strong. If you use too much here at this stage and it's too vinegary, you're going to have to add some more olive oil in it to offset that. I'm going to use about a tablespoon and a half to 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. Okay, I've got my olive oil and my vinegar now. So the next part is mustard. This could be Dijon mustard, honey mustard, brown mustard, yellow mustard, whole grain mustard. I really wouldn't skip this part unless it's for an allergy. Mustard adds such a depth to the taste without it actually tasting like mustard. It's really a key component. So I'm just going to use whole grain mustard and probably about a tablespoon. Next, we're going to add the sweet component. Just because we're adding the sweet component does not mean that it's going to taste like a dessert. We're just trying to balance out the vinegar taste, and you can use anything like honey or maple syrup. If you don't have one of those two, you can use white sugar or brown sugar. And again, you're putting in how much to taste. So I've got a little bit of maple syrup left here. This is my favorite option for the sweet component. Just going to add that in, and about a tablespoon and a half. Now I would decide what herb I'm using. You can use fresh or dry herbs. I obviously would prefer fresh, and since it's spring, the chances are good that you or a neighbor have something growing. Examples of herbs to use in your dressing would be rosemary, oregano, thyme, parsley, dill, basil, cilantro, or sage. If you are going to use dried herbs, then take a look in the cupboard and see what you have. Anything I previously mentioned fresh you can use in dried form, but there's also some blends that you can use. A common blend that households have is Italian spice, and I use that tons in the winter before my herbs have poked up in the garden. For this one, I have picked some fresh oregano, and I've just chopped that up here, and I'm just going to add it to our dressing. Lastly, I'm going to add some citrus. Common types of citrus are, of course, lemon and lime, but you can also use other citrus like orange and grapefruit. I've juiced half a lemon here, and I'm just going to add it. Now that everything's in the container, we're going to decide how to blend it. You can use a blender, an immersion blender, a whisk, or you can put it in a mason jar with a lid. You can put it in a Tupperware container, actually, with the lid on it. Tell your child to go shake it until he runs out of steam or loses interest. I've just used a whisk here, and I'm just going to make sure that it's heavily mixed so all the flavors are melted together. And that's basically it. For pouring, I've got a basic syrup container. I actually think that this is like a pancake or a waffle syrup container from IHOP or something like that. I'm going to pour the dressing in, and now I have a versatile sauce that can be used on pretty much anything. This is going to sit on my counter, not stay refrigerated, and is going to be handy for me to use whenever I have meat, vegetables, salad, or potatoes to put this on. Okay, before I go, I want to stress how versatile that these dressings can be. You really can use whatever you have on hand. Just make sure you're periodically tasting it so you can adjust the dressing to your liking. But go and discover what's in your fridge, throw some stuff in, and get rid of the craft stuff. Thanks for joining my asynchronous lesson. Stay tuned. We're just going to go over some slides to recap what we've learned.
The 5 basic components of a good dressing are oil, vinegar, mustard, herbs, and a sweetener. If you don't have one of those components, don't worry, you'll be just fine. Look in your cupboards and see what you have, and go from there. There are various types of oil that you can use, and it doesn't always have to be olive. Grapeseed, avocado, flaxseed, safflower, and almond, or just some of the alternatives. What vinegar you use is entirely up to you. Balsamic, red wine, apple cider, rice, and white wine vinegar are just some of the options you have to choose from. An odd but important ingredient is the mustard. Dijon, honey, yellow, whole grain, or brown mustard will all do. This is an important part that you don't want to skip. Herbs is another important ingredient. Whether you're using fresh or dried, they really bring the dressing together. Consider using rosemary, oregano, thyme, parsley, dill, basil, or cilantro in your dressing. The sweetener is used to counteract the vinegar, but if you aren't using a vinegar, consider using a little bit of sweetener anyways. My favorite is maple syrup, but you can also use honey, white sugar, or brown sugar. Are you thinking about what you will use your dressing on? Today we've talked about veggies, meat, salad, and veg. Those are 4 items that we mainly use the dressing on in my residence. Consider what you will be trying it on today.